Chris Galzer here with
Matt Howell.
And on this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss The Gentleman, the latest film from Guy Ritchie, and he's got Matthew McConaughey and his mostly normal cast of characters with some new additions. No Statham, though. No Statham. And we'll talk about that a little bit. We're also going to talk about Michael Bay's latest film that is a Netflix original, starring possibly the most charming actor on the planet, Reynolds. 6 Underground, not based on the Sneaker Pimp song. And then Matt and I are going to do a raucous round of What Are the Odds? We'll explain what that is when we get there. And of course, we'll tell you what's coming up on home video and what you should be streaming this weekend and your straight-to-DVD pick of the week. But let's start everything off with a clip from The Gentleman.
Weed, bush, skunkamola, White Widow super cheese. It's the new gold rush. This is the thin end of a very fat wedge, sir.
If it's such a fat wedge, why don't you keep it?
See, I've developed a reputation as a man who came up the hard way. You could say that there's blood on these pretty white hands. But in the new business, once legal and under the jurisdiction of the respectable umbrella of ministerial legitimacy, an enterprise like this will need a face with a clean past, which sadly, I do not possess. Retirement doesn't sound so bad. Long walks in the countryside, pruning roses with my better half, raising some cubs. I've earned it.
Now, I'm going to be honest with you, Matt. I have never smoken the Mary Jane, as the kids say, in my life. I have never participated or partaken in the White Widow super cheese. Is that a thing? Not that you have, but I'm just wondering.
Yeah, no, I've never heard of it referred to as the White Widow super cheese. Ever.
All right. We just live very sheltered, boring lives, I guess is what the problem is. So we're going to talk a little bit about The Gentleman. Guy Ritchie goes back to the well. This is the genre that basically launched his career. First up with Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, right? And then followed up with Snatch, which I just started actually rewatching tonight. I enjoyed those films. I think I even like parts of Rock and Rolla. Now, when he's kind of ventured out of this genre, Matt, he's met with middling success. Sometimes stuff's pretty good. He just did that Aladdin film, which I have not seen, but Mrs. First Run rather enjoyed it. But they didn't really mention that it was his film. And then also, too, he did that Robin Hood film, which is supposed to be not terribly good at all. I haven't seen that either. So
Go ahead.
Didn't
he do that King Arthur film?
I think he did, with my boy Charlie Hunnam, who...
Yeah.
Charlie is yet to cross the Tatum line on this show. I am not a big Hunnam fan, unfortunately. He's okay. Like Lost City of Z, I think is like the best thing he's done, maybe. Either way, I'm not running to the theater when I see Chuck show up. All right, I think he's the weakest thing about Pacific Rim. He tends to be for me the weakest thing in almost everything I've seen him in. So, The Gentleman. Matt, is this a welcome return to a genre that has served Guy Ritchie so well, or is this a droll, dull, boring mess?
Well, as usual, I think I'm going to split the difference. I don't know. I mean, I remember back when Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels came out and Snatch came out, they were very exciting films. They were kind of perceived as, maybe rightly so, Tarantino ripoffs to an extent, kind of like the English version of Tarantino films. I think back then that was acceptable. Whereas this, however many decades later it is, the shtick, it has a kind of a nice nostalgia to it, and I still think it shows flashes of what you liked about it or what you kind of people saw in Guy Ritchie at first, but it doesn't really bring anything new to the table. So I don't know how much influence it's going to have or how great it really is. I think it's okay for people who absolutely love Guy Ritchie, but for everybody else, they'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen this before with this guy, and it's not bad, but it's not like mind-blowing or groundbreaking or anything like that.
I think one of the big issues I had with the film, Matt, is that it seems to lack any electricity. His first few films, especially in this crime genre, tend to be very just urgent, right? And they're just these just this film just didn't really, it lacked punch to me. Now, it had some stuff in that I enjoyed, right? It had accents galore. Pretty much everything, every single kind of cliched English accent you could think of, I think pops up in this thing. But even McConaughey, I felt, is kind of dull in this. I mean, he certainly, you compare him to Hugh Grant's character, because Grant devours every scene he's in, right? But McConaughey is kind of more just kind of cruising through this movie. And even in these scenes when he's got to bring the anger and be a little upset about stuff, I just don't know how successful it is. There are flashes, I think, of vintage British crime Ritchie in this thing, but it just doesn't really, it never really came to life. I think it's interesting. It has a very kind of dense and I would say entertaining narrative to it, but it doesn't really do anything so much with it. It in a weird way, it reminded me like that Ritchie is kind of like a Scorsese with The Irishman, like almost like his older, more mature coda to his slappy in the mouth kind of British crime thrillers that he started out on. This is kind of much more. It tends to have it's trying to have a deeper meaning and be a larger kind of plot to it. I just don't know if it's that successful. I don't know. What do you think?
It's funny that you mentioned the whole Scorsese Irishman thing, because that's kind of what I was thinking too, to a much lesser extent. And I think maybe this is kind of like weird. We get like phoning in McConaughey. We don't get like insane McConaughey from The Beach Bum, who, whatever else you may think of that film, is unhinged McConaughey at his most unhinged. But this is kind of more the Lincoln commercial McConaughey. So it's he's much more subdued and he's ice fishing, except, he's a weed dealer. He's a weird weed crime boss. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's not as propulsive. It doesn't have that sense of urgency that a lot of his other films have, which I think is really critical to your enjoyment of them, or at least my enjoyment of them. Mm-hmm. It has a lot of the pieces, the kind of convoluted plots, the lots of moving characters and how they all intersect with each other, and then the kind of denouement at the end to kind of seal it all together and kind of put his stamp on the thing. But like you said, it's almost like it's very measured and I hate to say it, middle-aged. Like he doesn't have any kind of any youthful hunger in making this film.
Yeah, and one character choice I did not care for at all, and I know he's all the rage now because of the Succession, the HBO show, is Jeremy Strong. His Matthew Berger, the guy who was coming to take over the business. I hated every minute he was on the screen. And I know he was going for a particular thing, this kind of posh, kind of sophisticate, dandy kind of guy. I don't know, but I just hated every second when he was on the screen. And I guess maybe that's what they're going for, but fine, whatever. I just did not. Nothing about that endeared me to that guy. Now I haven't seen Succession yet, so. But I think how much more Statham do you think this film needed? On a scale of 1 to 10 being 1 no Statham and 10 all the Statham, what would you say that we needed for this thing?
Just seeing later Statham output, I mean, I would say maybe 3. I mean, maybe a little dusting somewhere along the lines. Maybe, I think that would be fine. But I don't think we needed very much, to be quite honest with you.
I would go almost a 6. I think he would definitely push this thing over the top. And I think he would kind of just slip right back into that energy and that kind of role if he were to show up in this thing. Unfortunately, no Statham. He's too busy making Fast and Furious, Hobbs and Shaw films, which are just
right.
Good God, good Lord. But I think there's enough here that's entertaining. I would still recommend you see it. This is, I think, in that genre of dadtainment. Right, I think it's enough. There's enough there for me to recommend it. I'm going to give it a B-. Right, it's entertaining enough for me. I like the plot. I kind of like the twists. It's just very deliberate, and it has these scenes and moments when he tries to shock you into just to suck you into this film with these particular. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there's some definitely scenes where he's kind of trying to slap you awake again, and I didn't enjoy those moments, but they're too far and in between, and it's just not quite enough for me. But still, a B- for me. What about you?
Yeah, I think I'm going to be more critical of it. I gave it a C. I just think that it's I guess if you can call a crime movie pleasant and unoffensive, but I mean, it's not anything that I would be interested in catching up with or kind of even holding up into the heights of Snatch or Lock, Stock, which are still fun movies today.
All right, if you had a chance to see The Gentleman, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, let's take a couple minutes and talk about what's coming up on home video this upcoming Tuesday. This clip you're about to hear is one of the more successful horror films of 2019. And it's going to include a director's cut with like 30 minutes of new and alternate scenes. So let's hear a clip.
Here's the deal, Snakebite Andy. You're a pusher. You can push people. We haven't had a push around here for a little while, so I'm going to offer you a deal I haven't offered anyone in almost 40 years. How old are you, darling?
15.
15? Oh, God, what an age. Springtime of your womanhood, isn't it? You're not a girl anymore, but you don't have a single dent yet, either. Gravity hasn't even noticed you. Not at 15. Men, though. No shame. You paid that back, didn't you? That's what I'm offering you. Springtime forever. 10 years from now, you're still 15. 100, maybe 17. Eat well, stay young, live long.
Ooh, that is Rose the Hat, played by Rebecca Ferguson, in Mike Flanagan's Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Stand, The Shining. All the S ones are the same to me, Matt. I'm not a voracious reader, and I've never seen The Shining. Just kidding. So, I'm very excited about this. I rather enjoyed Dr. Sleep, and I'm curious to see what Flanagan does with an extra 30 minutes. What about you?
Yeah, I enjoyed Dr. Sleep more than I thought I would, so I'd be interested in catching up with the extended version.
And it's coming out this upcoming Tuesday, February 4th. Best Buy has a Steelbook that's exclusive. And the 4K, of course, features Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos and some making of featurettes. Another film that we quite enjoyed, Matt, Waves, is getting its release. Includes audio commentary by the writer-director Trey Edward Schultz and then actor Kelvin Harrison Jr., and then a making of featurette, a Q&A with the director and cast, and some deleted scenes. I would definitely recommend you check out Waves.
Mm-hmm.
Matt, one of the films that I rather enjoyed last year, I don't think you got to catch up with it, is The Nightingale, which is...
Yeah, I didn't see it. It is streaming now, though.
Oh, is it? What is it on?
I believe it's Hulu, I believe.
Okay. Man, let me tell you, it's going to be a tough sit. I'm warning you. The opening 20-plus minutes, just thinking about it. But it is an exceptional.
You're really selling it for me here.
Yeah, well, it's an exceptionally good film. The Last Christmas. This is the one based basically on George Michael songs. The whole movie based around that. I guess starting with Last Christmas, with what's her name there from the Game of Thrones?
Emilia Clarke.
Thank you, Emilia Clarke, and of course Terminator. Something Genesis. The Good Liar, starring Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen, is being released. I wanted to see this one where McKellen plays a con man. Playing with Fire, the John Cena, Keegan-Michael Key firefighter family comedy is coming out as well. There is the remake of Rabid, the Cronenberg film. I'm really excited to see this, Matt. We should check this out and add it to our list. Cronenberg's Rabid, if you haven't seen it, is one of his earlier films, and it is very, very good. And I've heard pretty good things about this remake, so we want to catch up with that. Includes commentary by the directors and writers, Jen and Sylvia Saska, interview with the lead actress, Laura Vandervoort. One of Matt's favorite directors, Lars von Trier, mostly because of just how uncontroversial he is. His House That Jack Built is getting a director's cut Blu-ray release, includes a theatrical version as well. And there's an interview with Von Trier with that. That is one where Matt Dillon plays the serial killer, and the film kind of takes place from his point of view. I hear it's really disturbing. So, but hey, if I watched Nymphomaniac, I could probably sit through this. So.
Did you watch both of them?
Yes.
Oh. That's not one I've caught up with, so good for you.
Well, it was Thanksgiving and the family was here.
Grandma wanted you to put it on, huh?
That's right. Mon Monsters from Taiwan is being released as well. It's supposed to be a pretty good monster movie. A group of teenagers capture a man-eating monster. I hear it's pretty entertaining, so you may want to check that out. New to Blu-ray, there's going to be a 4K release of Boys in the Hood, John Singleton's classic film, Steelbook, available from Best Buy. 3 new featurettes, including a tribute to the recently departed John Singleton, and some ported over extras from prior releases, commentary by Singleton, some deleted scenes, auditions, tapes, and more. Spike Lee has a bunch of stuff getting released on Blu-ray, Matt. Mo Better Blues, Crooklyn, Jungle Fever, and Summer of Sam are all getting their Blu-ray releases. Your straight-to-DVD pick of the week, though, is Trauma Center. Alone and trapped in a lockdown hospital, they're in an isolation ward, Matt, overnight. An injured young woman must escape a pair of vicious killers who are after the only piece of evidence that could implicate them in a grisly murder, the bullet in her leg. Luckily, a veteran cop is assigned to protect her, and he becomes her protector as the night grows more dangerous. Starring Bruce Willis, Steve Guttenberg, and an entirely made-up name, I'm convinced of it, Texas Battle. So which would we be streaming this week?
So I'm a little late to this party, but I finally just caught up with it. I'm going to recommend, not a movie, I'm going to recommend a Amazon original series. It is The Boys, which is based off of the Garth Ennis comic of the same name. Garth Ennis, you may be familiar with. He also wrote Preacher, which we covered on the show for a little while. It's another one of these bad superheroes that are bad kind of thing, where Huey, played by Jack Quaid, is witness to a personal tragedy caused by a superhero, and he gets in line with Carl Urban's Billy Butcher, who has a personal vendetta in hunting down and making superheroes pay for their bad behavior. It is violent. It is depraved. It's also pretty funny in some aspects, and it's actually a really fun watch. I did not expect to like it as much as I did. So check out The Boys if you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I've watched about, how many episodes are there? Like 6, 8? 8.
8. There's 8 of them, yeah.
I've seen 6 of them, and then
Okay.
I kind of drifted away, so I do have to finish it up. I did just finish watching Unbelievable, which is currently on Netflix.
Okay.
And I rather enjoyed that. That's the Toni Collette one about the woman who was assaulted, and the cops don't believe her. And then Toni Collette and another, and I'm blanking on the actress's name. She's really good too, and I'm kicking myself. I can't remember her name. But they kind of team up from different counties, and they realize they have a serial rapist, and they try and track him down.
All right.
So that is really good as well.
Well, that sounds like some light viewing, so.
Well, yeah, I teamed that up with Nymphomaniac when the family was here. All right, let's spend a few minutes and talk about Michael Bay's return to big screen, little screen streaming cinema with 6 Underground.
Manchester and Farquharson. We've got a website, look it up. Inspection is our business, that's the slogan.
And your name again?
My name is Mr. Worthington, and this is my associate, Mr. Regepo. And he's from,
Kurdistan.
Kurdistan.
You want soup?
Got a bit of booze in there.
No.
Cup, compliment his wife.
Was that your wife?
It's my daughter.
It's hard living out here, isn't it?
She come out full grown.
Sort of fake me out there with the grey hair and the wrinkles and the orthopedic
What
shoes.
do you want?
An unannounced stress test. Plants 3 through 7, they passed. I have no doubt that you will too, all right? The only failure was at plant 2.
You know, that was very
One, two failed.
minor. Yes, so you know Mr. Noor.
We're trying to keep his name out of it.
Noor is a fool.
All right, Matt. So Michael Bay returns. He's got Ryan Reynolds on board this time, who's leading an elite team of people who are willing to do what governments and other agencies are unwilling to do. He's a billionaire. He hires all these people to topple dictators, take out assassins, whatever the case may be, to make the world a better place, one crazy, ridiculous death at a time. And I think that's it. I think that's what that movie's about. I'm not 100% because this thing is just... We've achieved peak Michael Bay, is all I can say. Out of all of his films that I've seen, I have never seen... If aliens were to come down to the earth and say, all right, give me an example of Michael Bay, this is what I would show them. It is oversaturated and vibrant. Explosions. We got parkour this time, which is cool. And I will confess, he knows how to wreck and or blow up a car and kill a bad guy. All right? I mean, there are some, I think, truly almost inventive action scenes in this thing. But that's all there is. This plot exists just to get us from action scene to action set piece to action set piece, right? That's all that. It's a shallow, hollow roller coaster, too concerned with the theatrics to tell a coherent and engaging plot. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. I'm actually really glad that you decided to take the lead on. I was expecting you to have me try and explain this because I didn't really understand what the hell was going on either. It doesn't make any sense to me how they're all supposed to be not know who each other are or how to find each other, and he's supposed to be this billionaire CEO. Like is Google not a thing? Like a reverse image search? Like you couldn't figure that out. Anyway, but I'm with you. I mean, this thing is definitely less than the sum of its parts. I mean, it has Ryan Reynolds, who's usually pretty fun. You have Melanie Laurent slumming it. Dave Franco's in it very briefly, and I was kind of disappointed at how briefly Dave Franco was in it. So it's got some people that are fun to watch in this thing, and I've read pieces of where arguing that Michael Bay on a technical level is an interesting director, and I think that this definitely has some inventive action scenes and just some absolutely ridiculous kills and gore effects and stuff like that, and it's very inventive. But I think if you put him in charge or leave him in charge of the story in any way or telling any kind of coherent narrative, that's where it all falls apart, and I think that's basically what happens here. Yeah, even what the through line of this film even was, I couldn't even tell you. I mean, for like the majority of the running time, I couldn't even really tell you what their motivation was, why any of them were doing this thing, because they start the flashbacks after they get through like 3 or 4 of them, they just stop for a long time, so you don't really have that much of a motivation for a lot of them. So yeah, the story is a mess. It's really incoherent. This thing would have been better as kind of like maybe a YouTube series where each like action scene is maybe like 10 minutes long or something, and it just kind of, you don't really have to worry about the gaps in between episodes to fill up the rest of it.
I'm inclined to agree with you. It is, especially with the back stories, right? Those origin inserts of each member, they just really grew tiresome to me.
They did.
And I'm watching this thing, and as soon as that guy, the parkour guy, shows up, and I'm like, oh, parkour, all right, you know. I'm like, what else are we gonna throw at me here? What's next?
Right.
So,
well, there's a sniper. They go get a sniper. They didn't have one of those.
That's very
true.
They
replaced the driver with the sniper, which sure.
Yeah, naturally, it makes total sense. And I like the aviation gin placement. Did you catch that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you can miss it. Which, of course, is Ryan Reynolds' gin. Listen, I'm not going to poo all over this thing. There's some grade A stunt work in this movie, all right? And just more, I mean, granted, it's all cotton candy and fluff, but that stuff is done well. And unfortunately, though, generally, Matt, not even Reynolds' endless charm is enough to save this exhilaratingly overstuffed, dull action film. You know, it's all about just goosing your highs. All right, what can we blow up next? How vibrant a film can we make? Let's see a guy get tossed between a car and another car and it gets blown up. It's like a Rube Goldberg of death kills in this thing. It's one of those where you can't catch your breath, but it's because you fell down and got the wind knocked out of you. Not because it's exciting, but because something bad has happened. Really?
Yeah, you can't catch your breath because you're just spending so much time just sighing, just at the ridiculousness of it. You can't even take a breath in because you're sighing and rolling your eyes so much.
I really thought my synapses there or whatever, my eyes were just going to snap off at one point because how hard I was rolling them.
Could you sue Michael Bay if you blinded yourself, like rolling your eyes back into your head?
Good, I wonder. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah.
I ended up giving 6 Underground Matt a D for...
Did you?
Not good.
D for not good. I was a little more generous. I gave it a C minus, just because when the thing just kind of shut up, and if like you just started watching some of the action scenes, they were just so ridiculous. I got a bit of a chuckle out of them. So there's that.
Fair enough. There you go, stunt work. You still deserve your Oscar category. I still don't understand why that's not happening. If you've seen Six Underground, currently streaming on Netflix, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. I guess. I don't know. All right, Matt. Let's go ahead and wrap the show up, and let's do a dangerous round of What Are the Odds?
Where were the other drugs going?
I never knew. I don't know. I swear to God.
Swear to me!
I don't know. I never knew. Never. They went to some guy for a couple of days before they went to the dealers.
Why?
There was something else in the drugs. Something hidden.
What?
I never went to the drop-off point. It was in the Narrows. Cops only go there when they're in force.
Do I look like a cop?
That's probably the best scene in that whole film. Batman Begins, for the uninitiated. And when Christian Bale's Batman voice made more sense. I kind of like how Zack Snyder handled it, the Batman voice in BVS. That made more
Where
sense.
it's like a voice modulator kind of thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, the
I just
later...
always liked-
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, I just liked how the cowl seemed to fit Christian Bale so poorly that it like forced his like mouth to be in a perpetual like duck lip thing. I always just thought it was so ridiculous because it looked like it just didn't fit. It was just so dumb looking.
Yeah, he did have that Tucker Carlson listening look with his mouth the whole time.
That is the most apt description that I never would have come up with. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. So this is What Are the Odds? This is where Matt and I just assign the odds of something happening or not happening, and then never coming back to see if it was true. So
Right.
you heard a clip from Batman Begins. So I don't know if you saw this, Matt, but they started shooting The Batman this week.
Oh, really? Okay.
Matt Reeves' Batman movie with Robert Pattinson and a slew of villains and actors involved, of course. So, Matt, what are the odds that The Batman beats Batman Begins' Rotten Tomatoes score of 84%?
Ooh, you know what? I'm pretty excited for the Batman, so I'm gonna give it a 75% chance it beats Batman Begins.
75%, huh?
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. I will say, though, just so I can be slightly different, closest without going over, I think it's going to be 70. I think it'll actually be like 87 and right now.
Okay.
So then I will say that I'll go, you know what? I'll say that. I'll go 87%. I'm going to nail the number.
Oh, wow.
So I say it's an 87% chance that it hits 87%.
Okay.
It's a 50-50 shot. And there's a 10% chance of that happening. I don't know if you know the Naked Gun's on Netflix right now. I just started watching it last night. It's weird watching that thing with OJ in that movie. I'm not watching it with OJ. He's in the movie.
Right. Yes. Thank you for clarifying.
No problem. All right. Go ahead. What you got?
All right. So 20th Century Fox, no longer 20th Century Fox, just 20th Century Studios. The purchase by Disney is proceeding along, and Disney's just kind of clearing out their slate. So the New Mutants is finally hitting the theaters in the next coming months. So with some of the stars being, show favorites, Anya Taylor-Joy, Maisie Williams, Charlie Heaton, at least those other two, at least they're pretty good actors. What are the odds that any of those actors are retained for the MCU?
Oh, that's interesting. I read something the other day that people are doing a little ad campaign or a little push campaign. They have Marsden come back to play Cyclops.
Oh, really?
But I don't know. I think you'd want to hold on to Anya Taylor-Joy if it's possible.
Yeah.
It's magic.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, I don't know. I don't know. It's the problem is that movie was done, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And none of them are currently involved in the MCU that I can think of, right? So
Right. Maybe it could be a wait and see thing to see if it's how successful it is and how people react to it.
Yeah, that's what I would say. I think it might. Yeah, and the thing does well. I'll say 63%, just to give you a weird number. That I think it's more likely than not that at least a couple of them will show back up. Everybody's going to be in an MCU movie at some point. I think you and I will show up. So
I'm just looking forward to what that's going to be. I hope we get to pick.
I'd like to be a schlubby Moon Knight. I know I got my own show coming soon, so I better get on that.
I just want to be the assistant to J. Jonah Jameson. As long, as long as it's still
J.K. Simmons.
Crap, J.K. Simmons. Thank you. I was about to resign on the show right here if I could remember his name.
You want to be Uatu or?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick. Yeah, because I really like Anya Taylor-Joy. I think they'd be a fool to let her go. So I would say I'm gonna say 68% to also give you a weird number.
Nice. All right, that works for me. Matt, what are the odds that Cary Fukunagawa's No Time to Die ends up being the best Daniel Craig Bond film?
So what do we consider? What do you consider the best as the Bond superfan out of the two of us?
Though I have issues with the ending, the fact that Roger Deakins shot it, I gotta go Skyfall.
Skyfall.
I would probably go Skyfall, Casino, Quantum of Solace, and then Spectre. Spectre makes me so angry because of that plot reveal.
Right, but Quantum of Solace makes no sense. It's like incoherent.
Yeah, but he's a badass in that one. Like that's the most violent Craig Bond.
Right.
He kicks all kinds of ass in that movie. So that's what pulls it up, I think, for me. So yeah. So what do you think? What about you? What do you think is the best of the series of Craig's run?
I guess I'd have to agree with you. I think I'd have to go the same. So I would go basically the same. I would just abstain from Spectre because I haven't seen it. So yeah, I mean, but I have a strong feeling that Quantum of Solace would still be after Spectre just because of how much I didn't like that film.
It's on Netflix. You should check it out. I think it's at least worth checking out. Well, you're not the biggest Bond fan, though.
No, but it's one of those things I've been meaning to get around to. It's just as our friends over at Screen Fix Pod would say, there's just too much tent. There's just way too much tent. I can't deal with it right now. So I was going to say that there is only a 57% chance that this is better than Skyfall. Skyfall's pretty good.
Okay. I'm fairly confident. I read, too, that there are rumors, it's total BS, and I don't believe it for a heartbeat, that No Time to Die is almost 3 hours long.
Really?
I would love that, as long as it's good. But I don't know. I mean, Fukunaga, that first season of True Detective is fantastic. They have that great tracking shot scene, too, right? That one cut, or whatever it is, it is so good. I think the potential is there to really nail this. So it'll be better than Skyfall. I don't know. Skyfall. I'm going to say no. So I'll say then I'd have to say it's a 48% chance that it would be better. I just think that Deakins, it's the best looking of all the Bond films. That thing is gorgeous to watch. So it could still be there, and I think it's close, and I still struggle with the ending of Skyfall. Either way. All right. There you go. I'm going to say 48%. Man, when I wrote that question, I was very confident, and I thought I'd be in the 70s. That would be better. But
what the difference a few hours make, huh?
Yeah, right? We'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind again.
All right. So the next DC film is set to come up with Margot Robbie, who I enjoy quite a bit, reprising her role as Harley Quinn, which I may be in the minority, but I did not love. And I really don't even like Harley Quinn as a character that much, but I really didn't like Margot Robbie's version of the character. Mm-hmm. So I'm not super psyched for Birds of Prey, I'll be honest. But the early buzz is coming in, and it's saying it's pretty dope. So, but Chris, we've heard
been burned before.
We've heard this many times before. I mean, I think I I think BVS and Justice League were both pretty ecstatic as far as those early reviews were. So, what are the odds the Birds of Prey early buzz is legit?
I will say that I'm confident about that one. So I'm going to say 73% that
Really?
the Birds of Prey. Yeah. There's something, I don't know. I just got a feeling every now and then. I get a vibe. And I got good vibes, which is funny because initially I didn't.
Right. Okay.
But when I thought about it and some of the visuals I've seen, and it's, I'm going to be honest with you, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is not one of my favorite characters at all.
Right.
But some of the changes they've made in her character from Suicide Squad, I think makes sense. I think it works better. And I'm interested to see where this goes. So I'm fairly confident. So yeah, 73. What about you?
Yeah, I'm not really confident at all. I've seen a lot of movies, Chris, and I've seen a lot of trailers, and I always get and I'm pretty good at picking out what's going to be underwhelming or a stinker. And this one, it just doesn't do it for me. Like this trailer, I'm never excited to see it. I don't think it looks good. And of all the DC films that I've seen, the trailers that got me hyped, Shazam and Aquaman and this new Wonder Woman, I'm extremely excited for Wonder Woman 1984 because it looks incredible. But this, I think it's just more of the same. It's unfortunate as an all-female led film, but I think it's going to be incredibly underwhelming. So I'm going to say that the early buzz legit is like a 35%.
Ooh, spicy.
I mean, guys, prove me wrong. I want to be proven wrong, but I don't think I'm going to be wrong on this one.
Fair enough. All right, Matt, here's my last one. Okay. This is a big one for you.
Okay.
It's a 3-part question.
Okay.
If a train leaves San Francisco... Okay, now. Dune. Denis Villeneuve's Dune. What are the odds it performs better than Blade Runner 2049? And you have 3 metrics. It makes more money. Blade Runner 2049... this is a low number. Its worldwide gross was $260,512,487.
Okay.
So 261. All right.
Okay.
Its Rotten Tomatoes score is 87%.
Okay.
And its cinema score, audience score, if you will, A-. Okay. So what are the odds that Dune outperforms box office? 260,000,005.5. Go with that one first.
Okay, what are the odds it outperforms? Who are the principals in Dune? Do we know yet?
Oh yeah, I mean they're filming right now, aren't they?
Yeah, let me look it up real quick. Vamp, Phil.
I'm assuming Chalamet's in it.
Yeah, Chalamet's in it. Rebecca Ferguson.
Ooh.
Jason Momoa.
Rose the Hat.
Zendaya.
Oscar Isaac, Brolin, Skarsgård, Bautista, Zendaya. Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Javier
Bardem. Yeah. That's a pretty legit cast. All right. So I'm going to say 54%. It's the thing about, I think this is going to be a refrain that you hear most of the time. Dune is not a huge property. I mean, I know it's kind of a sci-fi classic, and it's considered, an actual piece of literature by many people, but it's tough. It is a tough read. So, a lot of people just don't get it or get into it. While I understand that Blade Runner was a sequel to a kind of classic sci-fi film, but again, it wasn't really for everybody. It's almost a cult film. This, I think, has an even smaller audience, so I'd be really shocked if it does better than that.
That was the thing I was going to ask you about, because I thought the big thing about when they thought Blade Runner 2049, well, it's a sequel to a classic film that was 30, 40 years old. Right. So this is a film that, if I'm correct, Matt, Lynch's film was not a big success.
Oh no, it was a disaster. It was not a good success.
The book is massive too, right? Isn't it? It is. So I don't know how many people are familiar with the property. So
yeah, it's a book that gets read a lot by a lot of people that want to look into the best sci-fi, and I think it is an incredible piece of sci-fi. But there are just dozens and dozens of passages that are just internal monologue. I don't even know how you film this damn thing. So I'm interested to see what they come up with.
All right, odds that it beats the 87% Rotten Tomato score of Blade Runner 2049.
I think this is terrible, and I don't mean this to slight Dune, but I feel like it's the type of property that would really lends itself to critic wankery. So I'm gonna say like 80% that it beats 87% or beats that Blade Runner 2049, even if it's only by a point or two.
And then finally, it beats the A- cinema score.
I think that's a lot tougher. I think for all of its, whatever you think about Blade Runner 2049, I think to an extent it has a lot of really exciting scenes in it. It's accessible on some level. I think this is going to be a much harder sell, and I think people who are not into it are going to be hard to pull into it. So I think it's probably, 45% that it beats the audience score, because I don't think this thing has a wide appeal.
And that's basically what's going to frame all of my answers. Will it beat Blade Runner's numbers of 260? I think it might.
Okay.
I think the length may have an issue too, but I think it will. I'm going to go 60% that it beats it financially.
Okay.
And then the Rotten Tomato score 87. I think the critics, like you said, are going to be all over this. So I'm going to give it like a good, I'm going to say 75% that it beats that 87%. And then cinema score, I'm not that confident. I think that audience goers may go in expecting a big action kind of shoot 'em up. And a lot of this stuff is like what? Just discussions about spice running and what? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot of religious allegory. It's a lot of, really weird sci-fi concepts as far as like space travel and mind control, and a lot of political intrigue and stuff like that. I mean, a lot of even the character that the main character joins, like the faction he joins, is all it's a lot of the words are Arabic, and it's got a very Middle Eastern like mythology kind of built around him. He's like the Messiah who's called the Muad'Dib. So it's I don't know, this thing is going to be a hard sell for a lot of people.
Yeah, so I'm going to give it 48% that it beats the cinema score. All right, what do you got? Bring us home.
Although I just, before I do that, I just want to say I think that might actually be one that I would really be interested in for the first time ever revisiting to see where we land on that one.
Okay.
So mark it down. All right. So at a director's panel that included directors such as Greta Gerwig and Martin Scorsese, the host or the moderator asked if any of them had been approached by Marvel in directing a Marvel movie. Obviously,
Martin Scorsese
did not raise his hand, but Lulu Wang did. So I guess the MCU had actually reached out to him to gauge her interest on directing a future Marvel property. So what are the odds we actually get a Lulu Wang directed MCU film?
Oh, I would probably say like 60%. I don't see why we wouldn't. The Farewell is just a beautiful piece of filmmaking. So it'd be interesting to see how her talents translate into that. I guess it all depends on the property. So I don't know. What does Marvel have that might be a good fit for her? All right. What's the...
Well, I read that, that it was possible that they started talking to her about, because I guess they interviewed a lot of indie female directors for Black Widow. And then there was some talk that they may have wanted to gauge her interest on the Shang-Chi film since she is Chinese American. But it may be just that they, wanted just to gauge her interest in general. I mean, they got the damn things, planned out for however long in secret. So, I mean, she could have had some kind of ironclad NDA on something that we don't even know what it's going to be yet. So
that's true. And there are rumblings about Captain Marvel too.
Right.
Interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, I think what, as much heat as the Marvel films get, I think directors being geeks on some level themselves would probably really get a kick to be involved in this thing, and just have this part of this kind of cultural phenomenon. And obviously the money's nice too, so I would say 70%, because it would open up a lot of doors for her to even do her own passion projects from a financial standpoint, and that she could do big budget movies if they wanted to, if she's successful.
True. Well, that was fun. I'll have to make sure I keep track of this Dune one for you.
We'll put it on the calendar so we don't lose track of that one.
Right. That's a good idea. I'll add it. We still haven't done over the Rotten Tomatoes score game from last year either. I I gotta
We
find
gotta
that.
dig that up. I don't even know where the hell that is.
Yeah.
I still owe you like $30 from the last one.
That's right. So next week, Matt, we are going to discuss Gretel and Hansen. I guess it's all the rage now, these period piece horror films. And then we're going to do, what is it, Lux?
Lore? Yeah, I forget, but it's some
Luz.
streaming horror movie.
Luz. Luz. It's on Shudder, I believe, right?
Yeah.
So we'll be discussing those films. And we'll be doing our Oscar picks, because they are right around the corner. We'll tell you who will win and who should win. Who deserves to win. In the meantime, check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually you will find us. We attempted to live stream the recording of this episode, so go to the YouTube channel. Might not be there. Might be there. Could be a disaster. Who knows? We'll find out together. No, you won't actually. I'm going to check it, and then I'll pull it if it's horrible. So you may never find out. Go over to Apple Podcasts. I always want to say iTunes still, after what, 2 years now? Apple Podcasts, and then give us a review. I will read it on air and help other people find the show. As always, hit us up, feedback@thefirstrun.com. We would love to hear from you. All right, Matt. So why don't we go ahead, take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
Dear lads, you bad how you say? Hey, look. It helped as much as I'm gonna hit. You still got a car. I suggest you use it for you're not welcome anymore.